80 trillion years. Curses were too expensive. When using the derivation function, it was unlikely to exceed 1 trillion years of lifespan. Killing enemies and obtaining information were indeed two different matters. Hanju gritted his teeth and persisted. He would stop at 100 trillion years. These dogs were too ruthless. Hanju thought silently. 90 trillion years. 95 trillion years. Because of your curse, your enemy, Sage Jinan, lost his sage heart and became a mad sage. Hanju immediately stopped. His forehead was covered in sweat. He was nervous. Fortunately, he succeeded. Hanju cursed silently. This consumed too much energy. He couldn't curse anymore next time. He might as well do it himself. Hanju recalled that he had copied Sage Jinan's data before. He began the simulation trial and challenged him. Soon, Hanju opened his eyes again. Sage Jinan was something. He was stronger than Fuxishan and was faster than Li Mui. Hanju continued the simulation trial and looked for a way to insta-kill the other party. Several months passed. When Li Daokong came to find him, the fastest Hanju killed Sage Jinan was using 3 breaths of time. Not enough! Far from it! If he couldn't insta-kill the enemy, he would be insta-killed. Hanju sighed and let Li Daokong enter the Taoist temple. Sect Master, recently, my cultivation has increased again. I believe that among the pseudo-sages, no one can do anything to me. I can represent the hidden sect to fight for the sage position. What do you think? Li Daokong asked. He stared at him with a serious expression. Hanju said, "You want the primordial purple chi?" Li Daokong nodded. Hanju raised his right hand, and the primordial purple chi appeared in his hand. He said, "I have it. You don't have to go out. It's just that if you rely on the primordial purple chi to attain the Tao now, your future achievements among sages won't be high." Li Daokong's eyes widened as he looked at Hanju's right hand in disbelief. He rarely showed such an expression. He was really shocked this time. Why did Hanju have the primordial purple chi? Could it be that the Tao sect was not slandering Hanju when they surrounded him? Find up Ted Ovels on MV Elban. Co-M Hanju didn't hide anything and told him about Li Mui helping Shen Qingjun. Li Daokong sighed. He had once respected Li Mui the most. Now that he looked at him, he felt that his master was really despicable. He wasn't as righteous as he looked. Cultivate well. When you reach the perfected pseudo-sage realm, this primordial purple chi will belong to you. On the contrary, if the other disciples reach it first, you can forget about it, Hanju said calmly. He indeed thought highly of Li Daokong, but he couldn't show it too clearly. Li Daokong took a deep breath, bowed, and left. Hanju thought of the great Tao purple chi. He didn't decide who to give it to for the time being. He wanted to see the disciples' performance first. Then, Hanju continued cultivating. After becoming a sage, he had yet to cultivate. The cultivation of a sage was no longer breathing exercises but comprehending the great Tao. The deeper one's understanding and control of the great Tao, the higher one's cultivation would be. Hanju had grasped the great Tao of extreme origin and could continue cultivating. The primordial chaos zenith heaven golden immortal was not his limit. When he began cultivating, the primordial world in the depths of his soul began to surge with chaotic chi and nebulous primordial chi. His world of stars had already been renamed Primordial World. The Fiend Celestial Chi was still being nurtured. The chaotic origin stone was producing chaotic chi faster and faster. The reroll world was extremely tiny and couldn't keep up with the primordial world's development. If not for Hanju's dermic powers isolating it, the reroll world would probably be crushed by the stellar primordial body's nebulous primordial chi. Hanju had to think of a way to completely fuse the reroll world and the primordial world. What should he do? Hanju thought of the white-robed Buddha. The white-robed Buddha controlled the current reroll world's providence. Both sides lived together. If the white-robed Buddha fused with the primordial world, the reroll world would naturally be the same? How should he fuse them? Hanju thought of Suchi again. Why not let the white-robed Buddha imitate him? Let's wait and see for a while. Hanju closed his eyes and didn't say anything else. In the blink of an eye, 500 years passed. After Hanju succeeded in attaining the Tao, the sages didn't find trouble with him anymore. Qiu Shilai didn't even visit his dreams. Peace returned to the 100-peak immortal river. Hanju had also been cultivating. Already 5,000 Nether race members had stepped into the deity realm. The Nether race's talent was outstanding. In order to ensure their talent, Empress Hutu even sacrificed their reproduction ability. Now, the immortal Qi in the Tao field was definitely the richest place below the heavenly Tao. In addition, Hanju would preach the Tao from time to time, so their cultivation levels naturally increased. They almost didn't encounter any bottlenecks. After attaining the Tao, Hanju no longer cared about the deity realm. His current requirement for his disciples was the Zenith Heaven realm. On this day, Xing Hongxian came to find Hanju. After half a year, Xing Hongxian put on her clothes and sat beside him. She asked, "Husband, why do I feel that you changed?" She felt that Hanju wasn't as cold as before. There was more humanity in him now. Of course, she couldn't say it directly. Hanju thought for a moment and told her about his experience in the mortal world. Xing Hongxian wasn't angry after hearing that. She wasn't his only woman. Speaking of which, Hanju had very few women compared to others of the same realm. Xing Hongxian sighed. That Qing Waner had some affinity with you. Aren't you going to help her cultivate? Hanju said calmly, "There's no need. The person she knows is only a mortal, but I left her soul behind. I'll plan in the future." Hanju originally wanted to let Qing Waner reincarnate directly, but before she died, his heart softened. He thought of Han Tuo. He had to at least leave behind a relative for him. Yes, that's what I thought. Hanju thought silently. Then, what about your son? He's not returning to the hidden sect? Husband, why aren't you having a child with me? No, I want to give birth now. Xing Hongxian asked and started to move. She raised her hand to take off his clothes. Hanju glared at her and said angrily, "What cultivation level are you at? Hurry up and cultivate. If you have a child, can you still cultivate properly?" Xing Hongxian curled her lips. Then, what cultivation level do I need to make our child? Hanju said, "The meaning of having a son is to inherit. We have to live forever. Having a son is not important. If you really want to, when you reach the Zenith Heaven realm, I will leave a son for you." Really? Really? After receiving Hanju's promise, Xing Hongxian beamed. Her mentality had already changed. She felt that the Zenith Heaven realm was not unattainable. Xing Hongxian asked, "Where's Han Tuo? Are you really going to let him go? If not, bring him back. I'll help you take care of him. No matter what, he's still your child." Hanju shook his head. After so many years, he has already grown up. Ignore him. One day, when he needs me, I will help. It's just that it's not suitable now. Han Tuo had inherited his bloodline and was very likely to become the second primordial fiend celestial. Besides cultivating, Hanju would still care about Han Tuo. This kid had just experienced love a while ago. Unfortunately, it ended without a cause. Because he wasn't strong enough, he couldn't protect his wife. He began to cultivate diligently. This was a good thing. Hanju hoped that after Han Tuo experienced the myriad worlds, he would have the same pure cultivation heart as him. Recently, his circle of friends had been very calm. Nothing special had happened. Not bad. Long live peace. Hanju thought silently. He paid attention to Han Tuo again. With his current cultivation, the entire immortal world was in his eyes. He didn't even need to use his mystical power to see the other party at a glance. This kid had recently fought with the Jie school and had suffered a lot. Of course, he was only interacting with the lowest level, but it was enough to make him despair. Find up Ted Ovals on MV Elban. Ko M. Hanju waved his right hand expressionlessly. A stream of sage powers landed on Han Tuo's body, causing the bloodline restriction to loosen again. He would show greater potential, but it was still far from his true bloodline potential. In life, opportunities and benefactors are indispensable. My benefactor is the system, and your benefactor is me. Hanju thought silently and smiled slightly. He looked forward to Han Tuo's rise. In a palace on the 13th heaven, Ji Xianshan sat on a throne, and his gaze landed on a person in the hall. It was Jing Tiangong of the Jie School. Ji Xianshan asked, "Senior, why are you looking for me?" He didn't have a good impression of Jing Tiangong because he was from the Jie School. Although he had lost his position as the sect master, he still belonged to the Jie School. Jing Tiangong raised his hand and took out a golden token. It floated in the air and emitted a light that illuminated the hall. Ji Xianshan frowned. Jing Tiangong smiled and said, "A little trick to prevent the sages from spying." Ji Xianshan narrowed his eyes. "It seems that you want to abandon the Jie School." Jing Tiangong replied, "I'll tell you directly. I follow the Dark Forbidden Lord and not the Jie School." After the calamity ended, the Forbidden Lord did not appear again. However, he said that when the world falls into darkness, he will appear. Heavenly Ancestor, I understand your dilemma. Aren't you looking for a backing to join the Dark Forbidden Lord's forces? The reason why the heavenly race could be born is that the Dark Forbidden Lord interfered with the calamity. The sages were helpless to stop him. Jing Tiangong's tone was filled with pride when he mentioned the Dark Forbidden Lord. It was as if he was the Dark Forbidden Lord himself. Ji Xianshan asked calmly, "I don't even know who the Dark Forbidden Lord is. Besides, in the previous calamity, the Dark Forbidden Lord did not win. What does the future hold by following him?" Jing Tiangong smiled. Did he really not succeed? The original calamity should have lasted for many years. It was enough for the disciples of the various sage sects to rise. However, because of the Dark Forbidden Lord, the calamity only lasted for thousands of years. If you think about the current situation, no sage sect can dominate alone. This is why the Dark Forbidden Lord is so powerful. He doesn't want to fight at all. He just wants to balance the immortal world. Hearing this, Ji Xianshan frowned again. "I see. No wonder the Dark Forbidden Lord only cursed people and did not say that he wanted to fight." Ji Xianshan began to ponder if he should join the Dark Forbidden Lord. Currently, the sages would no longer allow him to join because he was the heavenly ancestor and needed him to face the heavenly Tao. If he was absorbed, it would cause the entire sect to face the heavenly Tao together. Since ancient times, the factions with the greatest providence in the heavenly Tao during peaceful times were often the sinful factions that needed to be defeated in the next calamity. Jing Tiangong said, "Join the Dark Forbidden Lord. You need to lie low and wait patiently. I will also use my strength to help you build momentum and help you rope in forces." Ji Xianshan asked, "Your power is from the Jie School?" Jing Tiangong shook his head. He smiled disdainfully and said, "Jie School? I gave the position of sect master to a fool because I wanted the Jie School to be destroyed. In the calamity, I expelled many disciples. Actually, the ones who were expelled were my trusted aides." Ji Xianshan asked, "You were born in the sect. Why do you hate the Jie School?" Jing Tiangong said, "It's not easy to tell you about this. The reason why you can rise is actually related to a person called Hanju, right? The Heavenly Emperor favored Hanju and helped you out. Heavenly Emperor Feng, who is on good terms with you, is even his grand disciple. Hanju seems to be from the hidden sect. The sages are targeting the hidden sect, and you are also implicated. You can only follow the path of the Dark Forbidden Lord. Otherwise, you won't be well next and might even become a joke in the immortal world." Ji Xianshan was moved. He knew that what Jing Tiangong said was true. Hanju's existence was the most important reason why the sages rejected him. However, he wouldn't blame Hanju. If not for him, how could he be where he was today? Ji Xianshan fell silent. Jing Tiangong wasn't in a hurry. He waited patiently. Another 500 years passed. Hanju's cultivation increased very slowly. He was far from the mid-stage primordial chaos zenith heaven golden immortal realm. After all, he was at the sage realm. In the past few years, the hidden sect disciples had all improved. The personal disciples had also stepped into the deity realm one after another. Even Fairy Xixian and Chang Yuer were the same. A deity realm cultivator below 40,000 years old was considered a prodigy. It was mainly because of the Dao field and Hanju's Dao preaching. Hanju also paid attention to Han Chuo's cultivation. This kid had already stepped into the immortal realm. It wasn't fast or slow. It was fine as long as he was alive. On this day, I'm Shurdu Dao. I created my own invincible Dao. Anyone who can cross realms to kill enemies can enter the invincible Dao. I can sweep through the immortal world and fight for providence with sages and compete with the heavens. A domineering voice resounded throughout the immortal world. Hanju couldn't help but open his eyes. Invincible Dao? Why did it sound so ridiculous? However, it had to be said that Shurdu Dao's slogan was very loud. Fighting for providence with the sages and competing with the heavens. Who wouldn't feel their blood boil? Hanju was very interested in Shurdu Dao. After all, he had copied him to form several Dao field guards. It seemed that Shurdu Dao wanted to challenge the teachings of the sages. He didn't know if he could succeed. Dao field guard has successfully copied. Please give him a name. A line of words appeared in front of him. A figure appeared in front of Hanju. It was Li Muyi. As expected of a sage-level guard, it took so long to copy it. Hanju stared at Li Muyi and fell into deep thought. What should I call you? Taking the names of the three countries meant that Li Muyi was on the same level as the other guards. Forget it, let's just follow the three kingdoms. Tradition cannot change. Hanju thought for a moment and said, let's call it Zhangju. The Dao field guard knelt down and replied, thank you for the name, master. Hanju said softly, cultivate in front of my Daoist temple. Zhangju agreed and left. He walked out of the Daoist temple and sat in front of the door like a door guardian. The crimson fox not far away was stunned. Who was this person? It had never seen Li Muyi before. It was extremely surprised to see him walk out of the Daoist temple. It carefully went over to strike up a conversation, but Zhangju ignored it. Outside the Suisat RD heaven, Li Muyi, who was meditating, suddenly opened his eyes. He frowned with a strange expression. Why do I suddenly feel uneasy? Li Muyi muttered to himself. He pinched his fingers to deduce, but he couldn't find anything. He couldn't deduce it. Ever since the Dark Forbidden Lord and Hanju rose, he often encountered things that he couldn't predict. It didn't make sense. It did not make sense. Could this be the great Dao immeasurable calamity that the Dao ancestor had mentioned? The sage's tribulation? He wasn't afraid of offending a sage now. Even if all the heavenly Dao sages came, they still wouldn't be able to break through his Dao field. However, he found it troublesome and kept a low profile. Although Hanju was no longer afraid of the heavenly Dao sages, there was still Ancestor Shitian in the immortal world. Although Ancestor Shitian had a favorable impression of him, it was not high. What if Ancestor Shitian suddenly lost his mind and wanted to kill him? In order to prevent this situation, Hanju had to maintain his determination to cultivate diligently. He had reached this point because of his cultivation attitude. He could relax occasionally, but not always. 30 years later, Li Xiedao came to visit him. He was stunned when he saw Zhangju. When he came back to his senses, his first reaction was to escape. However, he wasn't an ordinary person and quickly sensed that something was wrong. How could a sage come here? He was even guarding the door? As for the possibility of Hanju being killed by Li Muyi, it was just that Li Xianeo felt that Hanju was stronger than the other party. Hanju's voice floated over. What is it? Coming back to his senses, Li Xianeo couldn't help but ask, Sect Master, why is my master? Sage here? Zhangju opened his eyes and glanced at him before quickly closing them again. It's just my mystical power. He has your master's appearance and cultivation level, but he's not your master. His name is Zhangju. Li Xianeo widened his eyes. Only the same appearance and cultivation? What kind of mystical power was this? It was unheard of. Li Xianeo suddenly felt that he had underestimated Hanju. He could even duplicate the cultivation of a sage. If there's nothing, leave. Hanju's words interrupted his thoughts. Li Xianeo hurriedly said, Sect Master, the long-arm ape is now very capable. I think we can let him out and teach the long-arm ape race to develop hidden forces for the hidden sect. He had already said this opportunity before. Hanju thought for a moment and said, All right, I'll send him out directly. Thank you, Sect Master. He's already prepared. Hanju moved the long-arm ape out of the 100-peak Immortal River. After landing, the long-arm ape was not surprised. It was just a little reluctant. It actually liked living in the 100-peak Immortal River, but Li Xianeo had given it a mission. If you encounter this person in the future, acknowledge him as your master. Hanju's voice floated into the long-arm ape's ears. Then, Han Tuo's face appeared in his mind. The long-arm ape was stunned. He was extremely familiar with Hanju's voice. Not to mention him, the entire hidden sect was the same. It was precisely because this voice often preached the Tao that their cultivation speed was unstoppable. The long-arm ape couldn't help but ask, He is. Don't ask. I personally gave you this mission. After it's done, I won't mistreat you. Don't tell the second guardian, either, Hanju shouted, almost scaring the long-arm ape away. The long-arm ape did not dare to ask and could only nod in fear. Go! I'll watch you. The long-arm ape took a deep breath, adjusted its emotions, and flew into the distance. On that day, Li Daokong came to Hanju's Taoist temple. He sized up Zhangju in shock and was silent. In the end, he didn't disturb Hanju and left without saying anything. No one knew how shocked Li Daokong and Li Xianeo were by Zhangju's appearance. Hanju noticed Li Daokong's arrival. Since he had nothing to do, he started to check his emails. Your good friend Primordial Chaos Heavenly Devil has successfully possessed and become a Buddhist Buddha. His providence has increased greatly. Your good friend Huang Zuntian was cursed by a mysterious curse. Your good friend Ji Xianshan is haunted by a mental demon. His Tao heart has transformed. Your good friend Pen Xian was attacked by a mysterious mighty figure. Your son Han Tuo obtained an ancient supreme treasure. His providence has increased greatly. Your good friend ancestor Shi Qian discussed the Tao with a mysterious mighty figure. His cultivation has increased. Your good friend Muo was attacked by an inauspicious evil. Your disciple Yang Tiandong was attacked by demons, X12842. Hanju was stunned when he saw the Primordial Chaos Heavenly Devil. This fellow finally moved. Although the portrait was still there, Hanju didn't see any movement from him, as if he was in a deep sleep. Primordial Chaos Heavenly Devil, Early Stage Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal Realm, from the Chaotic Forbidden Zone. The devil race of the ancient era was defeated in the immeasurable calamity. The devil race was expelled from the heavenly Tao. Later, in another immeasurable calamity, they were summoned by the Buddhist sect. The Primordial Chaos Heavenly Devil is connected to the white-robed Buddha's devil heart. After separating from the white-robed Buddha, the Primordial Chaos Heavenly Devil followed your instructions and returned to the Buddhist sect. He has been thinking of you. Current favorability, 6 stars. The Primordial Chaos Heavenly Devil had become a Buddha at this moment. Could it be related to the invasion of the Heavenly Devils? Since the favorability of the primordial chaos heavenly devil didn't change, Hanju was not worried. It just so happened that he could use the primordial chaos heavenly devil to spy on the Buddhist sect. Visit Novel Bin. CM for updates. Hanju also noticed that Ji Xianshen's Dao heart was transforming. Was this fellow turning to the dark side? As for Ancestor Shitian, who was he discussing the Dao with? Where? Outside the 33rd heaven, or the deity realm of the ruins of End? Empress Huta had already surpassed the heavenly Dao, yet she could still be attacked by an inauspicious evil? Hanju felt that his circle of friends had expanded greatly. After reading the emails, he sent a dream to Ji Xianshen. Hanju still had a good impression of him. The two of them came from the same mortal world and had even fought against the immortal gods together, although Ji Xianshen had performed terribly. After so many years, the calamity had ended. Ji Xianshen still missed their feelings. In the previous heavenly race banquet, he had taken care of the hidden sect. Hanju didn't want him to walk the path of no return. The dream space was a forest outside the Jade Pure Sacred sect from a long time ago. Ji Xianshen was stunned when he saw him. Hanju was covered by the divine light of the sun and moon yin-yang protection, but Ji Xianshen immediately recognized him. "You're here," Ji Xianshen said with a complicated expression. He had always wanted to surpass Hanju, but no matter how hard he tried, the difference between them kept increasing. Although it had been many years, the strength displayed by the hidden sect made him not dare to underestimate Hanju. This fellow was probably already a pseudo-sage. Hanju asked, "How have you been feeling recently? Do you need my help?" Ji Xianshen was stunned. He asked in surprise, "Why do I need your help?" "No! I. Ji Xianshen was silent. Hanju wasn't in a hurry. After a long while, Ji Xianshen took a deep breath and said, "I indeed need your help. I just don't know if you can help me." Hanju said, "Go ahead." Ji Xianshen said, "To be honest, in order to become stronger, I fused with the remnant body of a pseudo-sage in the calamity. Although my cultivation level has increased greatly, there are mental demons everywhere. Now, it causes me to be unable to cultivate in peace. If this continues, I'm afraid I'll lose my mind and even become another person." He paused for a moment and then continued, "I suspect that I'm being targeted by a sage. The reason why I fused with the remnant body of a pseudo-sage was because of a technique given by a sage. At that time, the sage promised that nothing would happen to me." Speaking of this, Ji Xianshen became angry. "There's always a voice in my mind. He's shouting a name. Primordial Fiend Celestial." Hanju remained calm and asked, "I have a way to save you. Come to the 100-Peak Immortal River." There was no negative effect that couldn't be purified. Ji Xianshen asked curiously, "What's your cultivation level now?" "It's only enough to save you. If you save me, you will probably offend the sages." "Cut the crap. Do you want to be saved?" Hanju said impatiently. Why was this fellow so wishy-washy? Ji Xianshen curled his lips. He felt wronged. Indeed, it was no longer the feelings from back then. He hurriedly said, "I want to go. Give me time. I'll look for you after I'm done." Hanju nodded and ended the dream. Then, he continued to send dreams. This time, he visited the primordial chaos heavenly devil. They hadn't contacted each other for 30,000 years. Although his favorability didn't decrease, Hanju felt that it was unstable. Back then, in order to survive, this fellow directly hypnotized himself and developed a 6-star favorability towards him. It was extremely ridiculous. The dream realm quickly formed. In the chaos, Hanju saw that the primordial chaos heavenly devil had a physical body. It was a handsome Buddha. He wore a kasaya, and his right arm was revealed. His muscles were well-defined and emitted a domineering aura. When the primordial chaos heavenly devil saw Hanju, he was immediately vigilant. The divine light of the sun and moon yin-yang protection covered Hanju's face, preventing him from recognizing the other party. Dream? Primordial Chaos Heavenly Devil frowned. He wanted to break through the dream realm, but he could not. The other party's cultivation level far exceeded his. Pseudo-sage. Hanju said, "You don't recognize me anymore?" With that said, the Primordial Chaos Heavenly Devil was moved. He couldn't forget Hanju's voice. He asked carefully, "Master?" Hanju said, "Congratulations on becoming a Buddha. I wonder if your heart is with me or with the Buddhist sect." Primordial Chaos Heavenly Devil hurriedly said, "Of course, I'm on your side. I've been waiting for an opportunity beyond the heavens. Now that I've become the Buddhist sect's Buddha, do you have any instructions?" "No. I just came to see you. Thank you for your concern, Master." Visit Novel Bin. CM for updates. The Primordial Chaos Heavenly Devil was extremely nervous. He couldn't forget the torture. In his slumber, he often dreamed of the past. Hanju asked, "Who is in charge of the Buddhist sect now?" Primordial Chaos Heavenly Devil replied, "Divine Might Buddha. He's already a pseudo-sage." Divine Might Buddha. This fellow was still alive. Hanju thought that when the Buddhist sect was dissolved, the Divine Might Buddha had already died. He didn't expect him to still be alive. It seemed that the dissolution of the Buddhist sect was a self-directed act. Qiu Shilai still wanted to trick him into joining the Buddhist sect. Fortunately, he didn't take it seriously. If he went before attaining the Tao, he would probably never return. Hanju asked a few more questions, and the Primordial Chaos Heavenly Devil replied truthfully. 5 minutes later, the dream ended. Hanju opened his eyes and frowned. Although the Primordial Chaos Heavenly Devil's attitude was very humble and his favorability did not decrease, he felt that it was not reliable. "I want to know if the Primordial Chaos Heavenly Devil is loyal to me? 1 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue?" "Continue. He's loyal for the time being. As long as you don't die, or if he doesn't die because of you." Hanju was speechless. This fellow was also a talent. He was a talent in managing emotions to express loyalty to others. Hanju still couldn't completely believe the Primordial Chaos Heavenly Devil. Perhaps this fellow would betray him at some point. Hanju thought silently and started cultivating. As time passed, the immortal world became more and more exciting. There were countless races, and the Providence sect walked the world to preach the Tao. It could be said that hundreds of flowers were blooming. The humans were relatively weak because they were a race that survived the previous calamity. They were restricted by the heavenly Tao rules. Mortals had life and death, but the other races were different. They had long lifespans and almost all only died in battle. 800 years later, a god of plague appeared in the immortal world. Wherever he went, the plague spread, causing chaos. For a time, the immortal world stirred. The 100-peak immortal river was completely unaffected. In a bamboo forest, Han 8 and Han Zuetian were drinking. Han Zuetian smiled and said, "How about it? The wine my subordinates made is not bad. Right?" Han 8 nodded slightly. He, who was already at the deity realm, looked very cold and was no longer the timid youth from back then. The 8 gourd spirits had special identities in the hidden sect. Their status was even slightly higher than the second-generation disciples because their surnames were Han, personally given by Hanju. Their talent was also very good. The 8 brothers were all already deity realm existences. Han 8's talent was the highest, and he had been competing to become a disciple at the first tier. Han 8 asked, "Why are you looking for me?" "I still have to cultivate. I lost to Zhou Fan in the last 100-year competition. I'm indignant." Han Zuetian smiled. "It's like this. I want to ask you brothers to take in disciples. You don't have to preach the Tao like Grandmaster. Just occasionally teach them combat mystical powers. I have a living being under me who has natural eyes that can see through the 9 heavens. He sees more and more factions in the immortal world, and sooner or later, all sorts of battles will break out. We can't always rely on Grandmaster's protection. Hearing this, Han 8 frowned. He didn't reject him. He indeed wanted to help Hanju. They had always been cultivating diligently and had never repaid him. In Li Xianeo's words, this was impossible in the Sage sect. Hanju was too merciful. All right, I'll discuss it with my brothers when I return, Han 8 replied. Han Zuetian immediately beamed. At the same time, inside the Taoist temple, Hanju suddenly opened his eyes. He frowned and looked up at the sky. A strange black cloud had unknowingly appeared above the 100-peak Immortal River. There was no thunder and it was silent. Hanju's gaze pierced through the clouds and saw a 10,000-foot-tall figure hidden in the dark clouds. He wore sinister black armor and had a human form. He had 8 arms and a pair of wings on his back. He flapped them slightly. His face was black, but his eyes were very bright and filled with killing intent. Pseudo-Sage. This fellow was observing the 100-peak Immortal River. Hanju used the simulation trial. Thousand Madness Devil, Mid-Stage Pseudo-Sage Realm, Bloodline of the Devil Race, Chaotic Heavenly Devil, Immeasurable Emperor. There was more than one title. Hanju directly entered the simulation trial and killed the other party instantly. Too brittle. Now, he could kill a pseudo-sage with a finger. Hanju wasn't in a hurry to attack. He wanted to see what this fellow wanted to do. In the clouds, Thousand Madness Devil suddenly frowned. It's indeed not simple. Fortunately, I'm not in a hurry to attack, he muttered to himself. In that instant, he felt an extremely dangerous aura, making him feel like he was facing the Devil Ancestor. It seemed that it was almost impossible to take down the 100-peak Immortal River. Thousand Madness Devil turned around and prepared to retreat. You want to escape? Are you afraid? A voice entered Thousand Madness Devil's ears. He didn't stop. As he retreated, he replied, I'm indeed afraid. I'm afraid there is a sage in the 100-peak Immortal River. Although I don't know why they appeared in the immortal world, my instincts are correct. The voice sounded, as long as you make a move, I will impart my sage powers to you. You only need to break through the array formation of the 100-peak Immortal River. At that time, the Heavenly Tao will expel the sage inside. When he leaves the immortal world, the sages will deal with him. After it's done, you can obtain the primordial purple chi. Thousand Madness Devil shook his head firmly. The sage was silent and did not say anything else. After Thousand Madness Devil left, the dark clouds above the 100-peak Immortal River suddenly dispersed. Hanju didn't attack after seeing him leave. Since the other party was tactful, so be it. Hanju wasn't afraid that the other party would attack. The array formation of the Tao field had already been upgraded to the Freedom Sage level. Who was he afraid of? After the 3 pure sacred ancestor was defeated, who still dares to invade? The other party is a pseudo-sage, so it's impossible for him to be ignorant. Someone must have planned behind his back and took out something that made him willing to take the risk. Hanju thought silently. The only thing that could move a pseudo-sage was the primordial purple chi. Could it be that the sages were swindling someone again? Calculate. Hanju immediately used the system to deduce. I want to know who made Thousand Madness Devil come here. 4 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. A figure appeared in Hanju's mind. It was him. Chou Shilai. Hanju frowned. He was clearly on good terms with him. Why was he so impatient to scheme against him? From his understanding of Chou Shilai, he was not as reckless as he looked. I want to know why Chou Shilai asked Thousand Madness Devil to find trouble with me. 10 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? 10 billion years of lifespan. This was no longer the value of a heavenly Tao sage. Hanju was interested. Was there a new enemy? He chose to continue. He entered the illusion. This was Chou Shilai's Tao field. The golden Buddha Chou Shilai was motionless like a statue. Hanju landed in the hall and looked at him. It had to be said that Choshilai's image was really holy. It was difficult to think that he was an evil existence at first glance. It was as if he represented the righteousness of the great kindness. Choshilai suddenly opened his eyes. He asked, "Who?" Hanju looked around and didn't see anyone. He couldn't help but be shocked. Was Choshilai talking about him? That was too terrifying. Choshilai frowned. This aura fluctuation. No, it's not an aura, but the providence of the heavenly Tao. He was immediately moved and asked in surprise, "Heavenly Tao? Tao ancestor?" A cold voice sounded, "The heavenly Tao is abnormal. I hope that the sages can save the heavenly Tao." Hanju was stunned. What? Heavenly Tao? Choshilai frowned and asked, "Are you the heavenly Tao or the Tao ancestor? Everything can have a spirit. Why can't the heavenly Tao?" The Tao ancestor has long left. The heavenly Tao is the heavenly Tao. The cold voice sounded again, causing Choshilai to be moved. Hanju was shocked. The heavenly Tao had intelligence. How could that be? Wasn't the heavenly Tao impartial? Wasn't the heavenly Tao emotionless and would not side with anyone? If the heavenly Tao had its own intelligence, wouldn't it be easy to develop its own emotions and judgment? Not to mention Hanju, even Choshilai felt his blood run cold. The reason why they, the sages, were high and mighty was that the heavenly Tao was superficial and would not control them. No. Choshilai's expression was ugly. What do you want to do? The heavenly Tao replied, "Remove the anomaly and restore order." Who's the anomaly? Newly promoted sage, Hanju. The Tao ancestor said that he's a variable. Variables are variables. Because of him, the last immeasurable calamity ended very quickly. Choshilai's face turned ashen. The scene shattered. Hanju's consciousness returned to reality. His heart was in chaos. I want to know if the heavenly Tao has developed intelligence. 10 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Yes. Hanju's heart turned cold. Can the heavenly Tao kill me? 10 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. The heavenly Tao does not have the ability to attack on its own for the time being. It can only communicate with living beings. I see. No wonder it came to find Choshilai. Hanju heaved a sigh of relief. Does Choshilai think that I'm the Dark Forbidden Lord? 4 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Yes. Damn it. Hanju frowned. He immediately wanted to kill him. However, on second thought, even if Choshilai thought so, the other sages might not believe him. Moreover, even if the sages believed it, what could they do to him? As long as Hanju didn't leave the Tao field, the sages and the heavenly Tao wouldn't be able to harm him. How annoying. I don't want to attract attention, but people keep finding trouble with me. Hanju sighed helplessly. Focus on cultivating and surpassing the heavenly Tao as soon as possible. When the time came, he would capture the heavenly Tao and make it his pet. In the netherworld, underworld, young Tiandong sat in the hall and yawned in boredom. The 2 rows of ghost servants did not move. The black and white deities escorted another soul that had committed sins. Those who could enter the hall and be interrogated were all people who had committed sins when they were alive. Their negative karma was deep. When ordinary living beings died, they would directly go to the bridge of forgetfulness. Young Tiandong looked at the souls in the hall and was stunned. The soul held by the black and white deities was Hanju's son, Han Tuo. Young Tiandong was one of the few people who had seen Hanju's true appearance. Looking at Han Tuo's handsome face, he seemed to see Hanju in a daze. No one in the world could compare to Hanju. Young Tiandong frowned and asked, "What's your name? Tell me your birth." Han Tuo's expression was ugly as he said in a low voice, "My name is Han Tuo. I was born in the human race. I'm not about to die, but my soul was extracted by someone using a spell and I was thrown into the netherworld. Young Tiandong asked, "What are your parents' names?" Han Tuo hesitated for a moment and then said, "My father's name is Han Ju and my mother's name is Qing Waner. King of Hell, I'm really innocent. My lifespan is still intact. I've understood that in my situation, the netherworld shouldn't interfere." After so many years, his parents were already dead. It was fine to say it. The white deity cursed, "How dare you? How dare you order the King of Hell? Shut up!" Young Tiandong slapped the table and shouted angrily, scaring the black and white deities and Han Tuo. "Your father's name is Han Ju. How is that possible?" Young Tiandong's expression changed in disbelief. What a coincidence! This child looked very similar to Han Ju, and his father had the same name. Young Tiandong pinched his fingers to deduce and discovered that he couldn't deduce the karma of Han Tuo's father. Could it be? Young Tiandong said in a low voice, "Black and white deities, leave." Hearing this, the black and white deities looked at each other and hurriedly floated out of the hall. Nervous, Han Tuo frowned, not knowing why Young Tiandong had lost his composure. Young Tiandong asked, "Can you tell me about your parents?" Han Tuo was silent. Ever since he was young, he had felt that his parents were extraordinary, especially his mother. She had even taught him his body tempering technique. Until now, he had thought that he could be where he was today all because of that body tempering technique. There was no other way. Han Tuo could only tell the truth. Otherwise, he would reincarnate and everything would turn into smoke. He still had to take revenge. He couldn't let this go. Thus, Han Tuo began to talk about life when he was young. The more Young Tiandong listened, the more shocked he became. This Han Ju's temperament was too similar to his master. It was the same cowardice. No! He was just as cautious. Visit N. Felben. CM for EW Ovals.